Majority Report with Sam Cedar, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
It is Friday, September 28th, 2018. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Professor Eddie Glaude of Princeton University will join us. We also may hear from very angry regular, secret, possible guest. Also on the program today, Christine Blasey Ford gives totally credible testimony of an attempted rape. Meanwhile, Brett Kavanaugh gives totally believable testimony as an incredibly aggrieved, privileged white guy. Jeff Flake and Republicans are just who you think they are, as their committee votes today at 1:30 p.m. Meanwhile, the Violence Against Women Act set to expire this weekend, just in time. The congressional map is expanding as Dems see blue and heretofore red places. George Bush is out whipping votes for Brett Kavanaugh. It's not just Donald Trump, folks. It's always been the Republican Party. Meanwhile, from the drafters of FOSTA, a new Patriot Act.
Oh, boy.
And in Maryland, 11 Maryland lawmakers call for a Montgomery County investigation into sexual assault allegations against the potential next Supreme Court justice. All this and more on today's program, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday. We're all a little bit tired. Yesterday was a long day. And then by all of us, I don't mean just those of us here working on the show, but I have a feeling everyone is a little tired. As far as I can tell, everybody's pretty exhausted. Yesterday was an exhausting day.
As a species.
Yeah, indeed.
It was exhausting just to watch. I can only imagine how you guys feel.
I mean, I think, I think there's a lot of people who are just exasperated. And it was really stunning. It was a stunning day. We will obviously go through some of the clips. Yesterday, we released 2 podcasts, right? Both over 3 hours long.
The first one was about 4 hours, 20 minutes, not to make an Elon Musk joke. And the next one was 3 hours and something like 40.
So if you want to go back and listen to those, you can listen to them at 1 or 2 times speed. 1.5 or 2 times speed. And you can get the whole hearing in just half the time. We have commentary at different times. There are breaks when we talked mostly through the breaks, as far as I remember. And really extraordinary. If you did not see it, you can also head over to our YouTube channel, and we have both halves up there. The first half, my understanding is the first 20 minutes are we're taken out?
Yeah, because you can only go back 4 hours, so we'll upload those first 20 minutes.
Okay, we will upload those first 20 minutes, but you can go and see the entire thing, and it's worth, I think, seeing it. Obviously, if you can't do that, you listen, but it's worth seeing because I really do think we are in an extraordinary moment in our culture where a lot of forces that have been, moving are this is a moment where it's getting crystallized in some respects. And I think we've, on issues of gender and race, I don't think comes up here, but I think they're really two sides of the same coin in many respects, at least from the perspective of those on the right. I mean, I think that on the left, and from people who experience it, there are differences between being part of a class of people who have been in some way marginalized or have lacked power in our society. But from the perspective of generally of white privilege, of male privilege, and I think to a certain extent there's some class stuff that takes place here too that is like overlaid on this, particularly for a guy like Kavanaugh. But the outrage that was displayed, and maybe it was manufactured, maybe it wasn't, but the fact that it was effective is a function of white guys, privileged white guys, growing up with a certain understanding of what the deal is. And the deal is, like, we get to do this. We get to do this. And if we, it's not polite. So if it happens when you're, it's a youthful indiscretion, it's okay. Because there's fundamentally at the heart of this, and Eddie Glaude and I will go into this more. But because Eddie has written a book on, white supremacy and the value gap. And to a certain extent, there's this value gap is not just, I think, a racial phenomenon. I think it's also a gendered phenomenon. And I think the idea of well, you can't ruin my life for something I did at 17. And it's the deal that a guy like Kavanaugh grew up with was that, well, yeah, but I mean, her life is just like a little bit more disposable than mine. She doesn't have the potential to grow up to be a great man. And I am on the cusp of achieving it. I've put all the time in. I think there is that quality. And I think, like I say, whether he was manufacturing his outrage or Lindsey Graham manufacturing the outrage is less relevant than its effectiveness. But we will talk more about that. Also, when I went into my house cleaning, I was actually going to talk about, are we okay on the video? Thanks to Ted Leo, we have a different version of Pressure Drop. So big thanks to Ted. And we had other people who submitted some songs for us, and we'll probably put them in a rotation. We'll play around with them a little bit. But I want to thank everybody for their contributions in helping us deal with the problem we had with YouTube. Rainstopper sent one in, I think, right?
We played that on Thursday.
Oh, we did? We did already?
Yep.
Okay. And so, and a couple other songs came in. So I want to thank everybody for that. Meanwhile, if you like the stories you hear on our show, we think you're going to like the Sierra Club's new storytelling podcast, The Land I Trust. Season 2 of The Land I Trust is out now. Brings you storytellers from across the Western United States who share their experience in harvesting, protecting, and living with the 4 natural elements: water, fire, wind, and air. Series has 14 tales of individuals across the western part of the country as they share their tales of climate change, clean energy, and everything in between. Each year, the Sierra Club visits a different region of the country for a new set of stories. Season 1, stories from the American South. They talk to musicians, families, farmers, climate refugees, helping to move the South from coal ash pollution to a brighter, cleaner future. You can listen to The Land I Trust at beyondcoal.org/stories or on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. Check out Season 2 of The Land I Trust today. Also, one of our sponsors today is newsvoice.com/majority. I think if anything described in the course of 8 hours, the bifurcated world that is our politics and our culture in many respects, then we saw it yesterday in that hearing. And which I think shows at least the importance of seeing different perspectives, because we need to understand or be aware of, right? In the same way like Rommel, like they would study Rommel, like the desert fox in World War II. Honestly, like to be able to process what took place yesterday, you need to understand that literally their currency was how much toxic masculinity and just aggrievement will Kavanaugh bring to this session. And when he hit a certain level, that's basically like, we're going to vote for him. It had nothing to do with the fact that they did or did not think he was guilty or that Ford's testimony was compelling. It was like, how much white privilege aggrievement can this man deliver?
That's why I picked him.
Honestly.
Well, that is the norm historically for the Supreme Court. The only difference is they're starting to lose their grip on power now, and that's why he's crying.
Well, that's why there's aggrievement. Right. And anyways, there's a new media company out there that's coming up with their own response to these problems. So we got a little carried away there, but it's called News Voice. It's a website and app for iOS and Android, which you can access for free if you go to newsvoice.com/majority. Gives you a personalized news feed by aggregating a mix of mainstream media sources, international sources, and independent media sources, and multiple sources are provided for each story. The whole site is fueled by crowdsourcing. You can upvote stories you think are important so more people will see them. You can add stories to the site, or you can add a source that's missing for a story. It's meant to be a completely open and democratized source for news that lets you get every side of a story. They also have a video interview series featuring guests from Chris Hedges to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Go download the app for free by going to newsvoice.com/majority. Put the link under this video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, we've got it in the podcast descriptions. Check it out. We always have the links in the podcast descriptions. And if you can't find them, you can't remember what day it was from. Often, if you Google majority.fm and the offer or the company, you can find it. And of course, if you don't want to hear ads, become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. All right, let's play a little bit of sound, and in about 5 minutes, we'll have Professor Eddie Glaude. The Democrats yesterday decided, at the very least, to the extent that they coordinated, they were keyed into the idea that Kavanaugh does not want an FBI investigation. Now, I think the Democrats did a fair job yesterday. I don't think they did a particularly great job. I can understand the keying in on the FBI thing. Fine. You have one process thing that you all agree on, and you all go for that. But there should have been a second one. And that second one should have been more material. Less process-oriented, more material, hammering on one or two things. And Blumenthal sort of brought it up a little bit with I don't know the saying in Latin, but it's basically lying on one thing, lying on all things. It is the standard in which juries are given instructions. If a witness is found to have lied on one thing, then the jury can discount all of their testimony as being potentially lied. And they did not hone in on one thing enough. Judge Kavanaugh was very well practiced. He was waiting for every answer. Some instances, he had one that he kept answering over and over again. This is a fascinating exchange with Dick Durbin, because Durbin said, why won't you call for a FBI investigation? And then at one point, Durbin just changed the question slightly. And Kavanaugh had not been trained and prepared to answer the question if it was asked that way. And he freezes. And he looks to Grassley like, hey, dude, this is when you're supposed to jump in. Watch this.
If you, Judge Kavanaugh, turn to Don McGahn and to this committee and say, for the sake of my reputation, my family name, and to get to the bottom of the truth of this, I am not going to be an obstacle to an FBI investigation, I would hope that all the members of the committee would join me in saying we're going to abide by your wishes and we will have that investigation.
I welcome whatever the committee wants to do, because I'm telling the truth.
I want to know what you want to do.
I'm telling the truth.
I want to know what you want to do, Judge.
I'm innocent. I'm innocent of this charge.
Then you're prepared for an FBI investigation?
They don't reach conclusions. You reach the conclusion.
No,
Senator.
but they do investigate questions.
I'm innocent.
And you can't have it both ways, Judge. You can't say here at the beginning,
I wanted a hearing
moment,
Look,
I welcome any kind of investigation.
This thing was sprung on me. This thing was sprung at the last minute after being held by staff. You know,
Judge,
and I called for a hearing immediately.
If there is no truth to her charges, the FBI investigation will show that. Are you afraid that they might not?
No.
Come on, Jay Whip.
The FBI does not reach. That's a phony question, because the FBI doesn't reach conclusions. They just provide the 302s. With 302s, so I can explain to people who don't know what that is. They just go and do what you're doing, ask questions, and then type up a report.
Why would you resist that kind of investigation?
Senator, I wanted the hearing last week.
I'm asking about the FBI investigation.
The committee figures out how to ask the questions. I'll do whatever. I've been on the phone multiple times with committee counsel. I'll talk to...
Judge Kavanaugh, will you support an FBI investigation right now?
I will do whatever the committee wants to...
Personally, do you think that's the best thing for us to do? You want to answer?
Look, Senator, I've said I wanted a hearing, and I'd said I was welcome anything. I'm innocent. This thing was held when it could have been presented in the ordinary way. It could have been held and handled confidentially at first, which was what Dr. Ford's wishes were, as I understand it, and wouldn't have caused this, destroyed my family like this effort has.
I think an FBI investigation will
There
help.
he is. He does not want an FBI investigation. And when he's asked the question, should there be an FBI investigation? I'll do whatever the committee wants. Don't you think an FBI investigation would be better? I'm willing to do whatever but personally, what would you want to do? I didn't study for that answer. That wasn't I got A's. I like drinking beer. I mean, this guy is not a credible witness. He practiced for a week for this. And the idea that the process, the timing of this, when Blasey Ford, here, we'll do one more clip here. Well, we don't have time. We'll do this in a bit. But Blasey Ford says during the testimony that I reached out before he was even a nominee. And I have issues with the way that Dianne Feinstein handled this as well, frankly. And to some extent, they were assuaged because it was clear that Blasey Ford was highly ambivalent about this process. And to put her into a meat grinder has to be a decision that she makes. And according to Ryan Grimm yesterday, nobody in Feinstein's office was the leaker of that. The letter existed.
It's amazing that the Republicans have sort of managed to turn this into a leak investigation in the first place.
Of course. It was clear. I think we said that at one point early on. They're going to make this about the Democrats. When they realized, for a while, it looked like they were going to make Rachel Mitchell the scapegoat. And then they sort of stumbled on to like, this thing with the Democrats is going to stick. But all right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Eddie Glaude. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the program the James S. McDonnell Distinguished University Professor at the University of Princeton, Eddie Glaude. Eddie, welcome back to the program.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Sam. It's a pleasure.
Yesterday was, I think, one of, I mean, obviously we're talking about the hearings, or the hearing, I should say. And right now, I know that the committee is on its way to a vote. Give me the top line for you in terms of, like, because I think what we saw yesterday was a seminal moment in our politics, in our culture, in our society across the board. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Nobody does, I think, at this point. But this is just like one of those moments where I think it's just sort of what's been going on just comes into relief and crystallizes in a moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to kind of to summarize it because it so much happened on so many different levels. On the one hand, we saw the complete kind of shattering of the nominations process. The Judiciary Committee, that process has been broken, and this was the culmination of that. Another thing that we saw is that this society remains a deeply and profoundly sexist and patriarchal society. That Dr. Blasey Ford's courage was summarily dismissed. I think what the Republicans did yesterday was not only condescending, it was horrifying on so many different levels. And then thirdly, Sam, I would say that it became very clear to me that these people aren't interested in governing the country, that they are so focused on their base, and that base consists not just simply of the stereotypical Trump voter, but big money and the like, that they are willing to throw any pretense of democracy out the window. So profoundly sexist, a broken process, and a deeply anti-democratic sensibility was revealed to me. Was revealed yesterday. Those are the three things that stand out to me.
You know, I have to say that I think we had talked about you coming on before we knew how the timing of this would work out. But when I saw Lindsey Graham's performance and Kavanaugh's in his opening statements, where he is yelling and there is just such an aggrievement. I really did think of your last book, Democracy in Black, when you talked about the racial value gap. And, it was clear that for those men, it's very convenient, but for those men on the Republican Judiciary Committee, the only Republicans on the committee are men, and Brett Kavanaugh, there is also there's a gender gap there. There's that the value gap exists across gender. They can sit there and say that and be moved and be aware that many of their constituency are moved by what Blasey Ford had to say, and that she comes across as incredibly credible. But yet, still, there's this indignation that is a function of okay, yeah, that happened to her, but still, I'm a guy. I'm en route to becoming a great man, and that youthful indiscretion that may have made her life veer off in a horrible direction, or deal with stuff for a decade or two or more. That is just not as important as what I can become here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw on full display the rage and indignation of patriarchy under threat. I was stunned as I watched Kavanaugh scream and yell and condescend and evade and declare how hard he worked to get to Yale and what he has done. It seemed as if, and of course Lindsey Graham there's a kind of question that is being asked across the country. What do people have over this guy that he could become so unhinged? What does Trump have over him or something? This is a question that I've been asking myself, because yesterday was a despicable display. And I think you're absolutely right, Sam, that there was this assertion of the privilege, of the benefit, of the largesse of being a white man, that somehow Brett Kavanaugh believes that this belongs to him, that he deserves to be appointed no matter what is said of him. And the quickness with which they dismissed the compelling testimony of Dr. Blasey Ford, their willingness to not pay attention to obvious moments of corroboration of her story, even looking at this calendar of Brett Kavanaugh's and seeing that he mentioned that he was going out with PJ, right? I mean, which corroborates a part of her memory, just basic things, and then to just simply disregard what all of us saw with our own eyes, irrespective of our ideological orientation. Sam, we saw it, we heard it. And it just seems like a baseline fairness would be to ask for an FBI investigation, but they don't care about that either.
Right.
Because it's a pure power play.
I mean, it is interesting to wonder, I guess what also amazes me about this is that, Brett Kavanaugh, I think, is certainly, I think, an emotional type, right? Let's put him aside for a moment. Lindsey Graham, that was obviously highly performative. Maybe he was upset about something. Maybe something, triggered him in some way. But the idea that those performances were enough, right? Like it had nothing to do with in any way impeaching her testimony at all. There wasn't even an attempt to impeach her testimony. And like you said, it would be just an amazing, she doesn't know this guy, but she knew the people he was hanging out with, right? Down to almost the week. That's an amazing coincidence, but there was no attempt to impeach at all. It was all just, this is just not the deal that we made when we got born as a white guy.
Right. And the moment, if you look at the line of argument was basically a kind of a characterization of a Democratic plot to harpoon Kavanaugh's nomination. So it was really all about timing. The focus was on the timeline, right? When the claim was made, right? Why didn't they reveal the letter to the FBI? Why didn't Dianne Feinstein do X, Y, and Z? The Democrats are trying to do X, Y, and Z. None of that speaks to the veracity of Blasey Ford's claim. So let's just stipulate to this. Let's just stipulate to the fact that the Democrats were playing politics. Let's just say that's true.
Shocking that a political party would do that, but okay.
Yeah, and we know that Lindsey Graham, even earlier in this in the hearing, said that, why are we being naive? One side won; they get to choose who they want to choose.
Right.
He called it raw politics at that moment. He was very explicit about that. So let's just stipulate to the claim that the Democrats are playing politics, right? But we do know that they didn't play this card with Neil Gorsuch. So why would they play this card with Brett Kavanaugh? Well, it might very well have something to do with the fact that the claims bear some merit, that they're truthful in some way, right? So the question that needs to be asked is not whether or not the Democrats are playing politics. The question that needs to be asked is whether or not Brett Kavanaugh assaulted or attempted to rape Dr. Ford. But the Republicans aren't interested in that question, because they're not assessing the character and fitness of Brett Kavanaugh. They're engaged in a pure power move. They want to take over the court, and they don't give a damn about what anybody else thinks. And they specifically don't give a damn about Dr. Blasey Ford and other women who have been assaulted across the country who dare to be courageous and come out. I mean, it's just clear. So they're focusing on timelines and not, as you say, as you mentioned, not engaging in any honest, genuine, good faith effort to assess Dr. Blasey Ford's claim. They didn't take the claim seriously. And at the end of the day, Sam, when women say, believe me, that's what they're saying. Take what I'm saying seriously, right? It's not just simply just assume that I'm telling the truth.
Right.
Take what I'm saying seriously. And they refused to do it. It was disgusting.
So here, okay, let's play this out a little bit. And I guess, we don't know, and maybe it's unfair for me to say, like, this worked with their constituency, right? I mean, to a certain extent, their constituency is one person. Maybe it's Donald Trump on some level. He is willing to use his political cachet and continue to back Kavanaugh. And it sounded like, at the break after Ford had spoken, that maybe that wasn't going to happen, frankly. Mm-hmm. But Kavanaugh came out there, properly aggrieved, yelling, being belligerent. So there's a couple things at play here. One is Brett Kavanaugh lied in a way that I think is relatively unique to American politics. Like, there was, like, the lies that he told about Devil's Triangle or Boofy or whatever it is. I mean, the lying about what would you do? Would you want an FBI investigation? Like, it was one of those lies where everybody in the room knew he was lying. Mm-hmm. No one said it really explicitly, and it doesn't matter. Like, that is, to me, an MO that Trump has introduced. I mean, we've seen it. It's in the past. There's been Bill Clinton just deny, but on a very sort of narrow thing. This guy's lying about a whole host, almost everything he had an opportunity, whether it was relevant or not, he was lying about. Mm-hmm. Had a beer. I like a beer. I mean, and everybody knew it, but yet there's no consequence anymore for it.
Sam, that's a wonderful point. I mean, we've all been talking about what are the implications of Trump's manic lying. people have been talking about norm erosion. Folks have been talking about or describing it as we've entered a post-truth moment, post-fact moment. At a certain level of abstraction, what we are witnessing is the erosion of the possibility of engaging in serious deliberation about matters that confront the polity, right? So what does it mean to be able to lie brazenly and not be held to account? And so yesterday, not only did he lie about the Devil's Triangle, that it was a drinking game only, he lied about Renate alumnus. Mm-hmm. He lied about Ralph. Any of us, all of us, who I don't know anyone who's gone to college. Ralph is like the porcelain altar. We know what that is, right? I mean, you can't just talk about having a sensitive stomach, right? We don't use that word with a sensitive stomach. It's just not how ordinary language use goes with that word. So what was so fascinating is that he was lying in these very in these instances where it didn't require him to lie, which suggested that he was probably, it's a continuation of a broader set of lies, that he would not be held to account. So to respond to your point, is that what we get in light of this is just a raw exercise of power, just the assertion of will. And so you just get manufactured outrage on the part of the Republican Party, represented by Lindsey Graham, who's suddenly outraged because the Democratic Party wants to hold this seat open. He kind of say, do you have any sense of irony? Right. Just completely unaware. And so you get manufactured outrage on behalf of a power move. And we're seeing it now as the Judiciary Committee is preparing to just move him forward. I mean, what does it mean to live in a post-truth, post-fact society? It's just the will to power. It's just the will to power.
This is like it's gone beyond post-truth. It's almost like post-plausibility, right? like honestly, it's one thing to get up there and say, we can't have a deficit, or something like this. Say something like where there's some nuance, or you need to have some level of sophistication, but is there any grown person over the age of 15 who doesn't know, Ralph, or there's no one who believed that they did this Renate alumnus thing as an homage to her. I mean, first of all, his lawyer, when it first came out, said it was because he had kissed her. But even put that aside, we all know what that is. We all know what that is. I mean, in some ways, it's like there should be a societal shame about it because, and I imagine this stuff still goes on in many respects, but certainly that era, having been more or less the exact same age as Kavanaugh, that era was full of that type of stuff. You can see it all over the so-called comedy movies of that era.
Exactly.
But there's no shame about it. It's just like, we're going to pretend nope, it never, we're going to pretend like it just didn't happen. Like, it's not like, no, no one in that room, there's no one in that room who believed that. And yet it is not, everybody walks out and go like, that we don't know he's lying. Certainly his wife and his whoever was sitting behind him crying, looking like they were just retching, they knew he was lying about that.
Oh, and again, Sam, it's about the smallest of things, right? I mean, about the smallest of things. Why lie about Ralph? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me, and well, it does make sense to me because at the end of the day, it's just a brazen exercise of power The Republicans don't give a damn about the nation. They only care about theirs. There's the outrage of talk radio, conservative talk radio. There is the propaganda of Fox News. There is this perceived base that was clamoring for the Republican Party to demonstrate a spine. Of course, there's Donald Trump and his own self-interest in having Kavanaugh on the court. It didn't matter It doesn't matter what this might mean for the institution. It doesn't matter what this might mean for women and girls and boys across the country, and men as well who have been subject to sexual assault. They don't give a damn. And so what we saw yesterday is this extraordinary juxtaposition. We saw the thoughtfulness and compassion of Dr. Blasey Ford as she came forward to give voice to one of the most traumatic experience in her life up to this point. And then we saw the belligerence of patriarchy being challenged. Right. For those of us who have sent their kids to private schools, for those of us who know people who've gone up in that, who grew up in that environment, it was an exaggerated version of what we've seen and what we know in every shape, form, and fashion. And again, for me, it was horrifying.
I keep coming back to your notion of that value gap, because he's lying about the Renati alumnus thing, and he's lying about drinking, and he's lying about all those things because they take the story of him, the narrative about him, a step closer to that incident being true, that Ford's claims being true. And he knows it, and everybody else knows it, that if he's to give up that ground in any fashion, that they're going to be very close. They're going to be a little bit closer, and it's going to be much harder to ward off those charges, right? And it just has to be, they don't think her life, and I'm not even talking about forget the politicians, the people sitting behind him. They don't think her life was valuable enough to warrant. Like, if the charge had been he regularly broke into BMWs in high school and stole radios from guys just like him, he would have been in more hot water, I think.
I think that's right, Sam. I think part of the society that we live in, and I opened with this, is that we live in a deeply and profoundly sexist and patriarchal society. And what follows from that is precisely the claim that you're making, and that is that women are less valued, that girls are less valued than boys and men. And the fact that particularly white heterosexual men are accorded a certain kind of status, are assumed to have access to the benefits of empire, to the spoils of empire in ways that others do not. That we see that value gap, right, evidenced in very specific ways in our day-to-day lives and in these very dramatic moments. So let's be very clear. What Dr. Blasey Ford just did yesterday, there are women right now, women of color right now, on strike with McDonald's workers because of sexual harassment, right, because of sexual assault. They want better conditions in their work environment. So women who aren't in the elite, who don't, aren't around country clubs and going to private schools in Washington, D.C., aren't professors at Palo Alto or research instructors at Stanford, but women who are serving hamburgers and chicken nuggets are experiencing sexual assault right now. But in this society that is so profoundly sexist and patriarchal, right, their experiences are marginalized and they're not taken seriously, even when they come out. And so what was on full display yesterday is what's at the heart of Make America Great Again, at the heart of Make America Great Again, Sam, is this reassertion of white patriarchal power, right? This reassertion of a certain way in which this country functions, and it has every implication for people of color and for women across the board.
What do you think happens? I mean, one of the things about the Anita Hill hearings is that it wasn't. It seems to me, at least in terms of maybe not even. I don't even know if it's ever reached the broader popular conscience. To be honest with you, because, but that it wasn't until years later that we heard there were 3 other women who were going to corroborate Anita Hill's charges. Right? If they vote to make this guy a Supreme Court justice on Monday or Wednesday or whenever the final vote is going to be, how many days, we're not talking years now, how many days or weeks is it going to be before we hear more about Brett Kavanaugh? I mean, right now we have 11 lawmakers in Maryland who are calling for Montgomery County to investigate the sexual assault allegations against Kavanaugh. I don't know if Hogan can stop it or will, but if Ben Jealous gets up there and says, like, I vow to open up this investigation if I become governor, and then Ben Hogan feels some pressure to do it. I mean, what happens if we have, because we sort of know this stuff about Clarence Thomas, right? Mm-hmm. But the time has made, we United States of amnesia, you're talking about years, people forget about that. But if we're talking weeks, if we're talking before the midterm, if we're talking before this guy gets even sworn in, after a couple of days, that 2 or 3 more people come out and say something, where are we then?
Well, one of the things that we do know is that what we're witnessing and experiencing is the debasement of the institution of the Supreme Court. We've seen the office of the presidency compromised by the shenanigans and the absurdity of Donald J. Trump. We know that the Congress is dysfunctional, that Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan are complicit in some ways degrading the role and function of the House of Representatives and the Senate. And now we see the Supreme Court caught up in this, right? And I don't want to say that this is a result of hyper-tribalism or anything like that. It's the result of particular actors. So Sheldon Whitehouse Senator Whitehouse on Morning Joe this morning said very clearly that he will continue to pursue, whether Judge Kavanaugh is appointed to the court or not, he will continue to pursue the claims of Dr. Blasey Ford and other women. He said they deserve their hearing. So we already know that politicians on the Hill will continue, particularly on the Democratic side, will continue to investigate this. So the possibility of an investigation and the conclusions of that investigation that may lead to the impeachment of Judge Kavanaugh, that's already on the table. And then what's different about this current moment, Sam, and the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill moment is the fragmentation of the media market. And what I mean by that is that the quickness, the breadth, the quickness, the speed of events are such that as soon as if McConnell forces a vote and they swear this guy in, the quickness with which folks will come forward, the quickness with which it will be investigated, and the claims, it's going to be mind blowing. So the difference, of course, is that Clarence Thomas didn't exist in this media environment.
Right.
Judge Kavanaugh does. And it's going to have an impact.
If I was Susan Collins or Murkowski or Joe Manchin, that would be the thing that keeps me from voting for him. Right? Is like in a week, it's one thing. It took 10 years to find out I made the wrong mistake. But if people find out that you made a vote, such a consequential vote like that, so incorrectly. Obviously, all the Republicans across the board would be making that vote, but these are people who are sort of like, on the bubble. That to me is, from a sheerly political standpoint, has got to be the one thing that they're wrestling with. Like that Sheldon Whitehouse has said, I'm not going to let this go. Like, this is going to be my project. That's got to make them very nervous, I would imagine.
Well, you would think, but one of the things that we've talked about even today is the fact that people don't feel as if they have to be worried about being held accountable. Right. You can just lie brazenly. You don't have to worry about being held accountable. I think as long as we have the Fox noise machine, even with the various media platforms, there are ways in which a counter narrative will get out there that will, at least some of these folk believe, that they will provide them cover. I don't understand what Joe Manchin is doing. I think his numbers are such that he doesn't have to worry about the political fallout of this in West Virginia. So for people to read it as a political calculus on his part, I think is wrong. I think he's making a decision that is a reflection of his character, not just simply a political calculus. What Senator Murkowski and Collins are doing is I think a little bit more complicated. What Senator Flake has just declared, that he is going to vote for Kavanaugh. All of these folks are in some ways afraid of Fox News and what they can gin up, the conservative talk radio and what they can gin up, a base that is that can be not just simply vicious, but can actually have material and tangible effects on folks' lives. So I think you're right that they should be concerned, but I think they understand that they have cover, and then there's some other consequences that may follow, if that makes sense.
Yes. All right. So let's just move on to the last part about this.
Sure.
Like, what's interesting to me too is that George Bush is out there whipping on behalf of Brett Kavanaugh. No one sitting on that committee is named Donald Trump. Almost everyone on that committee on the Republican side has been a Republican for, years prior to Donald Trump. Like, are we at a moment now, and I know George Bush, never Trumper, or as close as you can get as a former president to declaring one. So, but are we at the moment now where people are going to understand, like, this is Donald Trump is symptomatic of a problem with the Republican Party. He's not the problem with the Republican Party.
I hope so. I really do. I've always said that Donald Trump was just an exaggerated indication of the rot at the heart of the country. When I was on television with Rick Wilson, and who's also a never Trumper and a Republican operative, and I was saying, if you're going to be a never Trumper, shouldn't you condemn the context, the soil that made Trump possible?
Exactly.
And Wilson said, you're right, there are deeply racist elements, deeply problematic elements in the Republican Party. But in 1967, Sam, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave a speech at Stanford University. And it was part of he was talking about the Poor People's Campaign, but he prefaced it with this kind of formula. He said he came to realize that people were more outraged by Bull Connor's dogs and his behavior than they were about segregation. And I bring that up because people are more outraged. A lot of these never Trumpers are more outraged by Trump's behavior than they are about the policies.
Absolutely.
And so as long as Donald Trump is giving them tax cuts, as long as Donald Trump is deregulating, as long as Donald Trump is putting money in their pockets, as long as Donald Trump is appointing conservative judges, all of these folk, right, are going to, under cover of night, support this guy. They just don't like the way he behaves.
Right.
Period.
He's just a little bit too obnoxious, but at the end of the day, he gets the job done.
Exactly.
Professor Eddie Glaude, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
And man, I always keep doing what you're doing, Doc. I always enjoy it.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Folks, if you have not read Eddie Glaude's any of Eddie Glaude's books, you should do so. Democracy in Black. Like I say, I see a lot of structurally a lot of what he talks about in the book. You can see it was really all over that dynamic yesterday. All right, It's Friday. We need a little bit of catharsis, ladies and gentlemen. So if you will indulge me, I'm going to make a quick phone call, and we'll see if we can get a brief moment of catharsis. Get a little music.
There's gonna be good time, good time. Got no job, baby. And my pockets don't seem to have a jingle. But as long as you're letting me hold you tight, everything is gonna be alright. Oh, yes it is. Everything is gonna be alright, baby. Listen to me. Things are looking real bad, baby. I can't afford the fancy dancy places. Oh, but as long as you have faith in me, we'll have ourselves a grand time.
Hello?
Hi, Sam.
Well,
how are you?
I am fine. Judy Gold, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. You know, what a time to be a woman. You know what I'm saying? What a great time. I really feel heard. I am going to, if I went on stage, okay, I'm just saying, if I went on stage and I started screaming and crying about how I did everything right. I went to the comedy club and I took acting classes, and now I don't have a sitcom.
Without having done anything to prevent you from doing it.
Right. You don't understand. Look at my high school yearbook. Don't ever change. Stay just the way you are. Okay?
Judy, are you there? I mean, I feel like your phone is breaking up a little bit.
I cannot fucking believe that this guy can fucking behave like that, and Lindsey Gay Graham can stand there and talk about, you should be ashamed of yourself. You know what, Lindsey? When you fucking come out of the closet and show everyone your gay boyfriend, well, his boyfriend has to be gay anyway. How dare you call someone a liar when your life is a whole fucking lie? Hello?
Hello.
Sorry. I can't. This is the worst. I have the stomachache I had when that orange fuckface became president. I have that same stomachache. The fact that that woman got up there and testified with such dignity and honesty, and then this guy is crying, I was number one. I went out. Like, oh, okay, since you got good grades, that means you don't like to drink. No, I like beer. 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 Shut up. What? And then the partisan rant about the Clintons. I mean, this is the Supreme Court. This is the Supreme Court making laws. This guy, it's a fucking 2-year-old.
He does not have a judicial. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
No. A PJ and Dupa. I know. Look, we all know exactly what he did in high school and beyond. And to fucking lie, and to, did you ever black out drunk? No, I've never blacked out drunk. I've never woken up and my clothes are. You're so full of shit. I threw up real needy fucking wine in my dorm, okay, in the girls' bathroom. And I will testify that I drank real needy wine and then puked all over the fucking place. Okay? Under oath.
Did you ever come across guys like this? Did you ever know prep school guys like this?
I didn't have prep school guys, but, I definitely remember the frat guys. I remember the frats, and we all knew which frats were drunken asshole, dicks who were, but the white privilege The white privilege, like this guy, his mother's a judge, his father's a lobbyist. He went to a private fucking rich kid white school and behaved like a fucking asshole. Oh, and then what about the whole thing about Mark Judge? He has anxiety, and he's a recovering alcoholic. So he can't.
That is the argument. That is why he can't testify, is because he's
right.
They're a little concerned because he's a recovering alcoholic.
Don't make fun of him.
Can I tell one or two quick things that come to my mind? Because I did grow up with guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. I went to a private high school, and there were a lot of rich kids there. There was this one kid who crashed his Porsche that his dad had got him when he got his driver's license. And what happened? His dad bought him another one. That was the consequence for doing that.
But wait, was it the cheaper Porsche or the more expensive one?
I think it was probably the same Porsche that he had before. I don't know if it was the cheap Porsche or the expensive one.
What was the cheap one? Wasn't there one that was just like the story was like it was just like a Volkswagen motor or something like that?
I don't know anything about cars. Also,
wait a second. Now we got to look at this in a whole different way. Sam's really getting to the heart of the matter.
Also, when I got to college, frats weren't that big at Columbia. It's too nerdy and artsy a school for that, but they have them. And this one frat on Frat Row had a party during orientation week when the only people on campus were freshmen. This is something they did every single year because, you know, they wanted to like be the have first dibs on like all us freshmen or whatever. I went to this party. It was gross. There was like this big bowl of jungle juice or whatever. It seemed like everyone was, it just had a very rapey vibe to it. And I fled and I did not go back.
Wow.
That's what these people are like.
You know, thoughts and prayers to you. Like, first of all, if Dr. Ford, Dr. Ford had behaved the way spoiled fucking brat Brett fucking Kavanaugh behaved, she'd be hysterical. She's crazy. Like his, anytime he's like, oh, I kept a calendar because I'm like a Boy Scout. Oh, shut up. Like, fucking, like, it's unfucking believable.
How about if
he can behave like that? Huh? Sorry,
how about if Hillary Clinton did that during the Benghazi hearings? Just like, I have calendars. Okay. Do you like beer? Yeah, I have a beer sometimes.
What? How about how he was like, I don't know, have you ever played quarters?
Right.
How old is this guy? His emotional fucking age is like, 14.
It was amazing.
That's
and it was weird. Let me ask you this, Judy, because I think it would be, you're the most responsible person to speculate about this. I can understand why the guy cried when he talked about his dad, right? Because you get sentimental about your dad. I don't, it's hard for me to imagine that doing it for me, but I can understand. Right. I'm human enough where I can understand
his father's alive.
Right.
If my father died when I was in my 20s. If my father's alive, and I maybe would cry about, he used to do this because I haven't seen him since 1990. Okay.
Well,
so your father's sitting right behind you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I understand that. My dad's here. It makes me a little emotional. I understand, of course, the kids. That's an easy one. You start thinking about your daughters and them going through this. I think in his case, daughters. Why did the guy cry when he started talking about lifting weights with the football coach?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't that a weird moment to be overcome with emotion?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand the emotion, the crying over, like, looking in the calendar. Oh, I went to PJ's and we lifted weights. I don't get that. Like, if I said, we drove around looking for dime bags, all night, which is what I did, I wouldn't start crying.
Where'd you go look for dime bags? Like, what would you do? You just drive from house to house?
We used to go look for pot. You'd be like, oh, can I have... And it was always like oregano and shit. The pot was so bad.
So were you buying it off of people on the street? Or would you go like, let's go to, Kevin may have it or something like that?
Yeah. It was like, let's go to so-and-so's house.
We borrowed PJ's mom's car. And we looked for dime bags. Sorry. I got emotional.
I just want to say that I had to put my band uniform on. And I took out my clarinet.
Judy, give me a sense of like I think every woman that I have spoken to yesterday was just like said exactly what you said, that they haven't felt as sick since Trump's election. And what's interesting to me is that Donald Trump was barely involved in this equation. Like, this is like the Republican Party.
There is no way that any of them would feel that they are entitled to behave the way they do. Like Lindsey Graham, for example, and baby Kavanaugh. Unless we we have just been witnessing a fucking 2-year-old toddler, as they call, the UK made a fucking toddler baby of him, because that's your leader, and now you're behaving like him. And the fact that this guy is so partisan, talking about the Clinton, like his total personality came out with his fucking broken capillaries on his face from all his fucking beer. Mark Judge had cancer. Fuck Mark Judge. Fuck you. Sorry.
It's all right. That's what
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about. I used to, when we had choir, and we had the performances, I was so tall that I was the only one who didn't have to stand on a riser.
Judy, just for a moment.
And if you look at the picture in my yearbook, I'm the only one that's not standing on a riser. I'm the same height as everyone else. It was an alto.
It was a what?
I was an alto.
An alto? Quiet.
Right,
Judy,
sorry. Go ahead.
Just imagine, like, not only do I think that Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, Ginsburg, never mind even for a judge. Like, not only do I think there is absolutely not a single woman in the country, in our history, probably in our near to far future, who could ever get up and give a performance like that and make it out of the room alive. Like without like them just saying, you know what, we're going to stop this hearing because this is like, we're just going to call it here because we don't want, like, it's just too, it's just, there's no way we're going to vote for you. If a woman had come in with that amount of anger and then that amount of emotion, everybody would say, she's psychotic. Ill. Exactly. Never mind. I don't even think, frankly, if Blasey Ford had that reaction as a victim of a rape attempt, I think that she would have been considered completely incredible. No credibility whatsoever. And yet, for this guy, it's a tour de force.
Absolutely. How you can, as a mother, I am a mother of 2 sons, and to watch this guy crying over, no, but it's supposed to happen like this. We're not getting my way. I'm not getting. It's like such a fucking 2-year-old. He's like taking a temper tantrum. And the way he spoke to Dianne Feinstein and Amy Klobuchar was abhorrent. The fact that, have you ever done? Oh, I'm curious. Have you? You see that he's an angry fucking asshole drunk.
Yep.
That exchange. Let's. Matt's out, but we'll play that exchange with Amy Klobuchar, because it really is. I mean, it really does in many respects. The belligerence that he shows with her, and the amazing thing is that, and I don't know how long this goes. Okay, but. We may end it, I think, too early on this one, but let's play it, because I remember this moment quite vividly. This is Amy Klobuchar asking him about drunk. She later reveals that her father, I think, was an alcoholic, right?
I read all that. If you read about her, it's prominent in her bio that her father left because of a drinking problem, and they have since reconciled. Yeah,
and she doesn't drink. It sounds like in any meaningful way. Here's this exchange.
Right. Drinking is one thing, but the concern is about truthfulness. And in your written testimony, you said sometimes you had too many drinks. Was there ever a time when you drank so much that you couldn't remember what happened or part of what happened the night before?
No, I remember what happened, and I think you've probably had beers, Senator, and so
you're saying there's never been a case where you drank so much that you didn't remember what happened the night before or part of what happened?
You're asking about, blackout. I don't know. Have you?
Could you answer the question, Judge? That's not happened. Is that your answer?
Yeah, and I'm curious if you have.
I have no drinking problem, Judge.
Yeah, nor do I.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, literally in the next second after that, somebody hands him a yellow piece of paper, and he shortly takes a break. But he looked at that thing, and that's when he came back and apologized. After he got that yellow piece of paper, somebody handed him a note, basically telling him, "Hey, man, you're acting like a dick. Pull back." And I think Jennifer Rubin wrote, after the break, no doubt advised by a White House minder, he apologized. The damage was done. The spontaneous reaction was the real one. Indeed. How do you have that type of, first of all, how do you have that type of arrogance? How do you have that type of arrogance in any context?
Hello?
In any context. Never mind, I'm in front of the whole country. I'm talking to a senator. I'm talking to a female senator. I am accused of attempted rape. And how do you have how bathed do you have to be in your own privilege to not even think that you need to act like a decent human being in that situation and just answer the question?
Right. Because, look, this is all you need to know. He was on a football team, and there was not one person of color on that football team. Okay? All white guys on a fucking football team. Okay? That's how he grew up.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad I wasn't here yesterday because, everybody was talking, well, at least at some points, about how his tears were evidence that maybe he found something out, about how he was toast. No, he's crying because he's never had to answer for a single fucking thing in his entire privileged fail-son life.
Because he got caught. That's why he's crying.
Yep.
Because he got fucking caught. I did not, who is so belligerent? You saw the way she spoke, because she's 100% certain of what happened to her. She doesn't need to scream it.
Yep.
She doesn't need to. She's telling the fucking truth. He needs to sit there and cry and fucking tell everyone that's not on his side that they're a bunch of fucking assholes, and then act like a fucking 2-year-old. He acted like a fucking, kid that got caught and is screaming his way out of paying any punishment. He's a fucking full of shit.
Well, this strategy goes back hundreds of years. You had people during the French Revolution saying that the French Revolution is bad because think of the poor aristocrats, It's like manners policing as a way to silence dissent. And you know what? I don't think any of it matters. I think he's going to get through, and it's just going to show further, as far as I'm concerned, how fucked up and illegitimate this system is.
We will.
Horrible.
We will see. Judy?
Jeff Flake tweeted a picture sending his kid off to college, though. So,
Judy, thank you so much for this.
Yes.
We needed this.
Oh, my God. I'm sorry.
We put the band on in the cassette deck, and we looked for a dime bag. It was in New Jersey.
I was making tapes in my room. My favorite song.
Ask the moms.
Judy, thank you so much.
Okay.
I love you.
No, thank you guys. I can't fucking believe this, and I thank God for you. All right.
Talk to you soon.
I'm going to go puke.
All right.
I'm going to puke because it's because I don't like spicy food.
Gotta lay off that spicy food. Nobody asked him, how's your stomach now?
Yeah, I know.
It's all right. How's yours?
Knows.
Yeah. How's yours?
Everyone.
Oh, can you eat? Can you eat spicy food?
Yeah, can you eat Indian food, Senator?
Spicy food?
You eat Indian food, Senator?
Stop wielding your stomach privilege.
Brett's fucking bad stomach. Come on, guys. Who doesn't know? It's famous. Famous at fucking the prep school about Brett's stomach.
I had a buddy who had colitis in high school. Never put that in his yearbook. Weird.
Didn't make it part of his identity.
Yeah.
No,
they didn't call him Diarrhea Dave.
It was a big part of his identity because colitis it impacts your life on a daily basis. But oddly enough, he didn't like highlight that as one of the fun things he talked about in his yearbook. Anyway,
Right. Exactly.
I must be naive. All right, Judy. Talk to you later.
All right. Listen. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, folks. We have a Jimmy Reefer Cake. We have a Jimmy Reefer Cake song. We will play that, and then we will head to the fun half. We have more breakdown of the
breakdown.
We're going to go through a couple of key points. That one is the Renati alumnus. Where Kavanaugh talks about this, an obvious lie. We're going to talk about Kavanaugh's last question from Rachel Mitchell, who was was it Rachel Mitchell? She was the prosecutor. If you didn't see the thing, again, I would encourage you to go watch our YouTube. And watch it. You can watch it at 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed. It is worth watching. Really, every moment was interesting. When they went back and forth with the prosecutor, it simply didn't work. And at one point, when it was time to ask him questions, she asked him a question, and that was the last they heard of her. And it was she didn't pursue. It was very strange.
And they basically just decided that the optics of having a prosecutor come in to question the accuser, and then leave halfway through the accused.
Yeah.
They just nobody will care about
and
that.
The thing is, nobody did. It was such a farce from the beginning that's what they got away. I mean, it is. I don't know if she is going to get confirmed because. You have Donnelly saying he's not going to vote for him. Manchin supposedly has better numbers than Donnelly. And supposedly they're all going to vote the same way. Donnelly, Manchin, Collins, Murkowski. It is very hard. And maybe I'm just naive. But it is very hard for me to imagine that Murkowski and Collins want to put themselves in this position. They would need Manchin. Let's put it this way. They need Manchin to vote against him before they can vote against him. I mean, is everybody following what I'm saying here? Every single Democrat has to vote against Kavanaugh before Collins and Murkowski did. I mean, this is what, we've been saying here from the beginning. The question is, how do you get the Heitkamps, the Manchins, the Donnellys? And the way you're going to get them, and we saw this with Jones as well, procedural, right? And that's what the whole bring in the FBI thing is about. Procedural.
So, question. How many Republicans would need to vote against him if all the Democrats hold firm? Two? I just don't see this ending any other way than he gets on.
There's only two ways where it's going to end, right? I mean, unless the guy just has a complete breakdown and says, I need another 6 months to get my shit together.
He has to get on in probably the next week or he's toast, right?
He has to. The vote has to happen. And it seems like they're pushing the vote back a little bit.
Which is a bad sign for him, I would have thought.
Bad sign for him. It means that they need more time to convince people. I
bet John Roberts is very unhappy with this. He's so assiduously created this brand that this is a serious institution. Even as it's a pure Republican, it's a pure ideological mechanism. But this guy gets on there for, including just his blow up. That whole thing is done.
Oh.
Just him and that red face being
yeah.
It's because you're mad about 2016 and I like beer.
Right.
They don't
care.
That is
not.
Well, they
may or may not care. Roberts cares.
No, right. Well,
Roberts definitely cares.
Roberts, I think, probably does, but that's not going to be.
That's not gonna
they
be
don't care about Roberts.
Right. I was talking
about
Roberts.
Collins and Murkowski, you remember, she was already on the bubble because of his rulings against Native people in Alaska, and Collins is staring at. As much money as she has at cash on hand, is staring at a grassroots effort to raise money against her. Now, she can certainly get more money, but if she believes that she is going to jeopardize her reelection, her self-preservation may be greater than her towing the line. I think it's 50-50 right now, but I just got to think that if I'm Murkowski and I'm Collins and Sheldon Whitehouse is saying, like, we're not going to stop digging. And I got 11 lawmakers in Maryland saying, look, we're going to start a criminal investigation against this guy. So within months, within weeks, certainly within a year and a half.
How long can you hide Mark Judge?
How long can you hide Mark Judge? How long can you hide Garrett? The Chi-Chi, what's the guy's name? Squee. Okay, Squee, she said that Squee, Garrett, was the one who introduced her to Kavanaugh. We have not heard from Squee. And at one point, Squee may feel pretty bad about this situation. And if Squee comes out and goes, oh, yeah, no, they knew each other. I mean, Collins and Murkowski, this isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, I took that vote and 10 years later, I found out I was wrong. This is like, 3 weeks ago. Like, the truth was 3 weeks away, and I voted for that. That is, I do not think there is a shred of decency or morality in any of these people. But I do think that there is a desire for self-preservation.
Well, the dynamic with the election and the motivation for Republican voters, too, if you factor that into this, they get Kavanaugh on, so all those people feel like they can stand down. They got their pro-life guy on there.
That's the thing that I have always, like, I will say this, that, and I think I've alluded to this a little bit, but I have harbored this secret conspiracy theory. Well, I don't know, conspiracy theory. Somebody leaked it. Somebody leaked that Dianne Feinstein had that letter. And according to Dianne Feinstein and according to his staffers during that thing, and according to Ryan Grimm, who did the reporting, he did not get the information that letter was from them. Now, maybe he got it from friends of Christine Blasey Ford. But she did not want to go public, and it's hard to imagine that people that she spoke to would have told. Now, it's possible that someone from some of the law firms that she met with, maybe they did. That would have probably be against their ethical considerations as lawyers, but maybe it came from there. Or maybe it came from the congressional office. Or maybe somebody in the course of casual conversations, staffers talking about this stuff, maybe it came from the Republican side. And they were just like, you know, I'm not saying that it was some coordinated campaign. Maybe just some dude was like, you know, my guy doesn't like Kavanaugh. And I happen to be one who thinks that, like, if I can go out there, you know, my guy thinks that if you go out there and run on an empty seat, that might be good. I don't know.
I don't like beer. Guess what?
I don't like beer.
How about that?
Well, to go back to this grassroots campaign thing, does anyone think that GOP donors cannot match or double or triple whatever this grassroots campaign is going to raise as some form of leverage?
Tell it to Crowley.
I mean, the question is, I guess, we enough of a democracy so that people can overcome money?
We've had multiple examples this year of candidates who had less money beating candidates with more money.
And in a state, I mean, you probably know more about the specific dynamics of Alaska and
Maine, I think is really
than I do. But like, if someone are these like largely pro-choice or anti-choice states?
I think Maine is largely pro-choice.
Okay, well, that's good.
Well, that's why Susan Collins has vowed not to vote for someone who comes out and is clearly anti-choice or will overturn Roe v. Wade. I think that it's possible she may feel like the energy, like at the end of the day, like you can have more money, but you need to get more votes. And sometimes, like, and this could be a year like that, and there's no reason to believe that 2020 may not be a year like that, because the Democrats get in. If there's enough impetus, they're going to investigate this dude. And that may look pretty bad for Susan Collins. And we don't know what information, you know, I mean, Susan Collins can pretend she didn't have this information or that information, but if it comes out 3 weeks later, that makes it really hard to believe that this is really buried information, right? So I don't know.
All of that makes a whole lot of sense. I feel like Republicans are going to vote for Republicans at the end of the day.
I think that is not a bad bet either. So, all right. We have a Jimmy Reefer Cake song. That was a long way of saying we have a Jimmy Reefer Cake song. Folks, just a reminder, this program relies on its members for its funding. I mean, yesterday, we had to get sandwiches, and I had a beer and a half yesterday.
I like beer.
Do you like beer after that? God.
Do you like
I'm
beer?
never going to drink beer again.
I like beer.
You know what? I'm saying that right now. Never going to drink beer again.
I don't know, Eddie. Have you ever drank beer?
Never going to do it. But I am already looking at the hard liquor up there and contemplating starting to drink now.
Beer's canceled. It's hard liquor forever.
I wonder if Brett Kavanaugh still likes beer after that yesterday.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
I think Brett Kavanaugh was liking beer during that yesterday. Yeah.
Some people I know think that he was actively drinking.
What did Brett did just sent us something like that tweet of saying, like, look, you know, in some ways there's an acknowledgement that's a little irresponsible, but at the same time, like that oscillation of like rage and weeping.
You learn how to go from those polls under certain conditions, I think.
Little textbook.
Well, I mean, that's what the whole Boehner thing was, right? Boehner would break out crying all the time. He was super emotional. I don't know.
How dare you?
Seems like a
How
nice
dare
guy,
you, sir?
The point being,
goes back to Edmund Burke.
Join
likes
themajority.report.com. It's where you can support the program. Also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Michael, this Tuesday, Matt Taibbi was in Stoods?
Yes, indeed. Matt Taibbi was in Stoods. We had a great time. We did a very, very, very
You guys drank a lot of beer, didn't you?
We actually did enjoy some beers.
We did enjoy some beers.
I saw.
Like
Except not Taibbi. He doesn't drink beers. At least he's not lately.
Yeah, Taibbi's like, I don't like beer anymore.
Brought some water.
Brought some water. Brought some coconut juice. Do you like coconut juice? Yeah, we did a very, very thorough Thomas Friedman. But, I mean, we have a lot of fun. And even at one point, we even used a clip of Pete Sampras trying to bean Andre Agassi with a tennis ball to illustrate a point. It was a fun show. This Sunday, Illicit History of Canadian Politics. And on Tuesday, Daniel Bessner, who just wrote a New York Times column on a left foreign policy, is going to be in studio.
And Jamie?
Patreon.com/TMBS. Got to get the tag in, dude.
Jamie?
Yeah, so our new episode is out now. It's called Secrets of the Illuminati, and we talk about, how to combat this secret society where the elders of Zion want to reincarnate the Whore of Babylon via Hillary Clinton. No, just kidding. It's about how the real problem is, spoiler alert, capitalism, and how Illuminati theory came to the hood. And our guest Tans actually used to believe in a lot of these conspiracy theories herself, so she has a pretty good perspective on it.
And Matt, what is the conspiracy theory that is going on with Literary Hangover?
No real conspiracy theory, although the second in my series of my reading series of Catherine Maria Sedgwick's Hope Leslie is going up in the next 15 minutes. I have it loaded in Patreon right now, ready to publish. And this is are you familiar with the Mystic Massacre? It was in Connecticut.
Mystic, Connecticut's right up the road, or right down the road from New London.
Yeah,
where I went to school.
So it was sort of during the Pequod War, and it's an interesting story. And these chapters deal with an Indian girl, a Pequod girl, who was made a slave after that massacre, and she's telling a boy in the family who's using her as a slave about what the English did to her tribe. So it's pretty heavy stuff.
They did not tell us that on our school trip to the Mystic Seaport.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, it's pretty brutal stuff.
I think you got to go to Mohegan Sun, where they give you the actual tour.
That's where they tell you.
Yeah, basically the English surrounded their village and set it on fire when the soldiers of the Pequods were out, so as women and children, and then as they tried to escape, shot them. So, yep.
Nice.
Patreon.com/literary hangover.
Happy Columbus Day coming up, folks.
For Steve Pinker.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a
Jimmy Reefercake and Adam Rainstopper a collaboration again.
Dream team.
This is a Real Wave.
Hitler could come back from the dead and run as a Democrat, and I would vote for him.
Jeffrey said he voted for Hitler. As long as Hitler was a Democrat. But the Democrats are in the shitter because of backward thinking just like that. What we need is a real way. Our red is the color of blood and war and greed. A purple monster
Killer. I would vote for.
Wow. I got to say, very, to me, now maybe this is just me, I'm projecting, but wow, folks gone crazy here in the studio. Take it easy. Maybe I'm projecting, but I felt like there was a lot of like replacements from like the sorry ma forgot to take out the trash era.
Some powerful octaves going on there.
Maybe I'm just projecting onto that, but there was like a little bit of Westerberg and
I hear it. Maybe.
Well, yes, I mean, but the replacements were very influenced by Husker Du.
Maybe some social distortion.
Yes. Interesting.
You're like, yes, children. These are all bands that
Those
existed.
are all bands. Guys. All right, we're going to take a quick break, head into the fun half. 646-257-3920, or you can IM us on the app, majorityapp.com. And here we go.
Hello.
Hi.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy, back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy, back. And the alpha males are back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Almost has what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
I am a total cunt.
Can we bring back DJ Dannerky's song, please?
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Dannerky.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break for people.
That's fucking nonsense.
Hey, folks, reminder.
I do not have Parkinson's.
And the alpha males are...
Psych. Fuck them. Almost has what?
What?
Almost says what?
Hell of a lot of bank. 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 Hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
The alpha males are back. And the Africans are black Africans. The alpha males are back. And the Africans are black.
See Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keep it at 100.
Can't knock the hustle.
Come on! Fuck things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday! Happy birthday to me, Jew boy! I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are back. Africans are black.
Come on! Come on! Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total
Pussy.